Good afternoon, Minister, distinguished guests. Permit me to acknowledge the Kaurna people, the original custodians of the land upon which we meet, and especially in National Reconciliation Week. There was a tremendous function that I'm sure many of you were at this morning in this very convention centre with 1,650 participants at breakfast. It was really wonderful. Thank you, Minister, for your presentation. I respect that the government has a tough job managing the wider economy, and I appreciate your advocacy, especially behind the scenes, for higher education in challenging times. I will nevertheless say just a few words in response to the proposed changes before moving on to a different topic. Australian students right now make the 6th highest contribution in the world, it is said, to their education costs. And it's disappointing that these are being increased, albeit modestly. Perhaps more concerning is that repayments will start to kick in at a lowly 42k salary. The repayment rate is indeed very modest at 42k, but living on 42k can't be easy. Further, as we've heard, universities are to be hit hard by 2 compounding efficiency dividends on a portion of our federal allocation of 2.5%, which is regrettable given that I think we've done considerable heavy lifting with cuts over recent years. The result of these changes is that students will pay more to get less. Cuts will challenge our international competitiveness. Universities right now represent a great success story for our nation. So, for example, only two countries in the world have more universities than Australia in the World Top 100, or the World Top 150 for that matter. Those 2 countries are the UK and USA, with considerably greater population, of course. Furthermore, as the Minister remarked, international education is Australia's 3rd biggest export at around 22 billion after iron ore and coal. And I suspect that 22 billion is rising quite rapidly at the moment. We would be wise not to jeopardise, I think, this success. Perhaps in our later Q&A there will be opportunity to discuss other challenges in the sector, such as meeting the costs of hosting research. I think the system we have for funding the underlying costs of carrying out research is in need of some serious fixing in this country. I should say that there are some welcome elements to the changes, including enshrinement in legislation of the HEP program, the push for admissions transparency, and the lifting of support for teaching in some clusters. But I'm keen to make a few remarks in an area where I think governments and universities are very much on the same page, and that area is innovation, also mentioned by the Minister. 18 months ago, we saw release of the federal government's very worthy National Innovation and Science Agenda. At the University of Adelaide, I'm seeing dramatic and exciting developments in the innovation space, and I believe that there is a blossoming right across the sector. The University of Adelaide has a long tradition of translating or applying leading-edge research to generate economic or social benefit for our nation. And a good example would be that the majority of the wheat grown in this country can be sourced to the University of Adelaide's Wait campus. Likewise, most of the barley grown in this country, one way or another, came from the Wait. And in that sense, I'm talking about that crops have been, plant varieties have been developed that are more resilient and more productive. The wine industry has benefited enormously from education and research at the Wait, as has the horticultural industry. We probably wouldn't have an almond industry without it, for example. But I'm seeing much more comprehensive engagement at the University of Adelaide. Only a couple of weeks ago, a senior Mitsubishi Heavy Industries team flew out from Japan to secure with us a multi-million-dollar agreement to utilise our sensing technologies for gas turbines. And these are gas turbines in power stations, only 1 or 2 of which would fit in this hall. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries has 82,000 employees, including 1,300 researchers of their own, many of which are working in the very area they were looking to connect with us. But they had to seek us out in order to get the leading edge technology, and that's a great story for South Australia and for Australia. Our world-leading research in this area is already generating major cost savings at a Port Pirie smelter through our collaboration with local engineering company S.J. Cheeseman. The following day, I met with another delegation that flew in from Japan, this time from Olympus, the Optics and Medical Devices Corporation. They were looking to partner in our disruptive approaches to biosensing, some really quite radical approaches to measuring the body's function, whether it be in the brain or arterial function or the fetus. Our research is certainly not confined to multinationals. We're partnering with dozens of local SMEs in advanced manufacturing and other areas, and we are grateful to receive catalyst support from state government and the federal government. Innovation in defence technologies is proving remarkably exciting as we respond to the Next Generation Technologies Initiative of the federal government. The University of Adelaide is working in numerous areas in defence, and by way of example, our world-leading oscillator technology may well underpin the upcoming Jindalee Over-the-Horizon Radar 2.0. And our participation in the discovery of gravitational waves, one of the great scientific breakthroughs of the last 50 years, is generating major payoffs in high-powered and pulsed laser technologies that have myriad commercial applications, including in defence. I was delighted but not surprised to be informed recently that Adelaide is Australia's most engaged university in defence-related R&D. Finally, we're about to open a new innovation hub called ThinkLab on the corner of Pulteney Street and North Terrace that will coordinate our innovation agenda. It will be home to startups, mentors, and the nation's largest entrepreneurship contest, which we run, the Australian E-Challenge. ThinkLab has a subsidiary in France and will soon have one in Singapore. Downstream, we're planning to operate a major innovation accelerator on the Old RA site. We share the federal government's view that a vibrant and highly productive relationship between universities and industry is essential to our future. In the UK, USA and Germany, we observe that extensive industry ecosystems commonly form in the neighbourhood of universities. This we must replicate to a far greater extent in Australia. I see much cause for optimism with a major cultural change taking place in universities in which innovation and engagement is being enthusiastically embraced in synergy with the pursuit of leading-edge fundamental research. Thank you.